of all the things to have fallen by the wayside in 2020, the thing that I just kind of noticed and remembered was the round of golf, the few rounds of golf that I play every year down in Pacific Grove. See, my buddy Rich and I go down there, have gone there since 1989, and that's one of the things we do. Ostensibly, we go down there to go to the Pebble Beach Concord d'Elegance, which we've gone to a good 30 plus times or so. And then also we go to the historic races over at Laguna Seca. But we also found this cheap golf course the first or second time we were there. It's Pacific Grove City Course, municipal course, owned by the city. And it's like 20 or 25 bucks to play twilight after 4. And we usually play a couple of rounds while we're down there. In fact, even though I'm living in Salem and I've golfed in Salem a handful of times, I'm not a huge golfer. Golfed in Portland when I lived there. The course I've golfed the most at in my life, like probably 30 or 40 or 50 times, maybe more, is Pacific Grove. And I didn't get a chance to do that this year because of the COVID, but it's kind of funny. It's this hat, by the way. We do a hat every year for the tour. We call it the tour. We go down there. It's just the two of us, and we have a good time. And I didn't get my golf game this year. It happens. Hey, it's Tim Patterson. This is Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. So glad you could join me. You can find me at TradeshowGuy.net, the exhibit company, Trade Show Guy Exhibits, the couple of books I do, some freebies there, links to the blog, the podcast, the video blog. They're all right there, jumping off points to other websites, webinars, and things like that. This week, by the way, I want to remind you, I haven't done this for a long time. Subscribe to my newsletter. You can find it at pretty much any one of those sites there, TradeshowGuy.net, TradeshowGuyBlog.com. Just look to the navigation, and you should be able to find the newsletter. If not, there's probably a pop-up or something like that that'll nag you, and you can either subscribe there. It's once a week, easy to get off. That's the way we do newsletters. This week, I got a cool guest. He's been on the show once before, Bill Stainton, who is a award-winning Emmy writer out of Seattle, producer with the Almost Live show, does a lot of public speaking. For years and years he's done that. He's very good at it. And he's also a fun guy to interview. We talked about a lot of different things, including innovation, what's happening in the next year or 2 or 3 or 4. And we kind of got into some things I wasn't really expecting to, and it turned out to be a fun interview. Hope you enjoy it. All right, I want to welcome Bill Stainton to Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Bill was on, I don't know, a couple of years ago. It's been a while. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing great, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well in spite of.
I mean, great being a relative term.
Yeah,
now,
it is.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. It's funny. This is, all year long since about March, you get emails from companies and magazines and stuff that says unprecedented year, and I'm still getting them. People are still trying to work their way through it, and I go, okay, another one of those emails, but.
Right, all loaded with words like pivot and upheaval and
those, right.
Which, I mean, and the problem is, those are all accurate.
Yeah, they are.
Those are all true, but it's like, okay,
it's like you're copy and pasting each month.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're just kind of in this tunnel. You don't see a light at the end of it. Although maybe there is a light. I don't know. Anyway, I'm curious how you've been doing this last year. What kind of things have you done, and have you made a big pivot, or have you just been doing the same thing?
I've been doing. It's interesting. I've been talking to a lot of my fellow speakers. I mean, I made my living, and hopefully will again, as a keynote speaker. I mean, basically,
right.
my entire revenue stream was getting on airplanes and flying to rooms full of people sitting close together.
Sure.
And that kind of dried up in mid-March. But what I was doing when I got there was I was talking about creativity, innovation, breakthrough thinking, that sort of thing. And, if I was doing it on a big stage, you do it bigger. I'm doing the same thing now. I'm just doing it, within the confines of this box. And
right.
Obviously you change things. It's more teaching and less of, the big show, which you get as a keynote. I mean, the keynoter is about, a lot of it's about the show.
Sure.
And this is more about the content. Let's really roll up our sleeves and get to work and talk about the how-to. So that's what I've been spending most of my year doing, and retooling, and also kind of trying to plan for next year, because next year is going to look different than this year. The first half might look very similar, but
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Then things are going to start changing, I think, relatively quickly.
One hopes, as they say, fingers crossed. I know the trade show world is is gone, just like the event world. And they're looking at some shows being virtual through the first quarter. Others are trying scheduling live shows. I know we've got a couple that our clients are
Yeah,
looking at in May, but we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see.
And I know that a lot of the virtual reality companies and things actually mostly comes from gaming companies where they've been trying to recreate the experience of a real in-person trade show virtually, and it's tough because
Yeah.
you see the screenshots. Oh my goodness, it looks great, but the learning curve is really high, and a lot of people in trade shows, it's like I don't want to have to learn a whole new platform to do that. I mean, it looks fantastic, but it's too much to learn, and yeah, so it's I mean, it's great for gamers because they already know how to do that kind of stuff, but for older guys like you and me, or not you, but like our fathers, let's say, um
It's
you
got to be
know
easy. Yeah.
yeah. It's got to be like, look, I just sort of kind of figured out Zoom. I know how to unmute myself, and that's as far as I want to go. That's
Yeah. Although, my family, my mother's 92 and we got her into Zoom earlier this year. I said, we should do like every week or every other week. And I got three brothers. And so the five of us get together on every other Sunday and chat for half an hour. And
yeah,
it's fun. It's now she knows how to turn the audio on and turn the camera
yeah.
on and things like that. I go, okay, she's 92. I mean, she, every month she calls me, how do I get my email again? So if she can figure
She's
out
got Zoom
Zoom,
figured out. That's fantastic.
I know. So you had a newsletter. It's kind of a sporadic thing, but it came out
It's been very sporadic
very
this year.
sporadic. You referenced an article in Entrepreneur I thought was interesting, and I thought it'd be fun to get into a couple of things
Sure.
because it was very forward looking. The article author was a guy named Rashawn Dixon, and he made the case that there are five key trends in innovation that are coming and how leaders can capitalize on them in 2021. Customer interaction, sustainability, a focus on EQ, social responsibility, and virtual living. First of all, what caught your eye about that you were willing to share that?
Well, the first thing that caught my eye was just the title, the realization, because this is what I do for a living,
Yeah.
is the idea that innovation is the way through this. In every in every crisis, in every upheaval, there are organizations that, okay, I'm going to start dropping all these words, that thrive or that flourish, and a lot that don't, and we've seen that. And there are lots of reasons, but one of the reasons why the ones that flourish do flourish, like they make it through with flying colors, while their competition, who may be in the exact same industry, go out of business or just kind of lay low and hibernate for the year or something, is the ones who make it innovate through it. They realize that things are different, and therefore you have to do things differently. What worked before is just that, what worked before, and we're not going back to that, as much as people might want to say. The latter half of 2021, if things work out the way we hope they do, will probably look a lot like 2019, but it's not going to be exactly the same.
No.
I mean, the game has now changed forever. And so I like that realization that innovation has always been one of the key traits. I mean, I think McKinsey did a report that said like 84% of executives said that innovation is going to be one of the most important ingredients of their success. I don't know what's wrong with the other 16%, but and that was before the pandemic. And now it's like, yeah, you've got to look at things differently because the world has completely radically changed. And I don't think we're going to realize, I think it's going to be like 10 or 20 years before we really kind of fully realize the ramifications. Like, the kids that are like 5 and 6 years old now in their formative years, what's this going to do to them? I mean, either negative or positive, but how is that going to manifest itself when they reach young adulthood?
Right.
And when they have their own kids, it's all these things have a ripple effect.
Agreed. And it is, I think it's going to last for a long, long time. And I look at these five, and I think, well, actually, a lot of these have been around for a while. People have talked about consumer interaction and sustainability,
sure,
social responsibility, virtual living for a long time. But there's kind of a twist in it. And you mentioned innovation. Innovation, most people get the idea it's got to be something really big and overpowering. And in fact, to me, as I've kind of followed innovation, it's usually just a tiny twist here and adding one thing there, and all of a sudden you've got something that no one else has done, or you're ahead of the game on what everyone else is trying to do. So one of the things that caught my eye was emotional intelligence. I'm curious what you think about how to focus on that. That's a very interesting thing because a lot of people don't have that. Don't you agree?
I I do agree, or if they do, it's dormant.
Well,
Some kind
yeah,
of a dormant emotional intelligence gene. But I think that goes along with the others, the sustainability, corporate responsibilities, or social responsibility, that sort of thing. It's this awareness that there are other people out there.
yeah,
That it's not just you and your little bubble, which is weird because we've all kind of been living in our little bubbles now. I mean, we don't leave our houses or anything, but like you said, we're we're more connected than ever in many ways.
yeah,
Like you talked about, you and your family get together every other week. That's probably more than they would have normally.
yeah. I think
Like
so.
this. Yeah, you may see more than you did in 2019. You're seeing them virtually, but still, it's a connection. And I think, I mean, there are a lot of different definitions of emotional intelligence, and it's one of those phrases that's kind of batted around a bit.
Yeah,
But really, it is just kind of the idea that uh, you're aware of other people in the world. There's a little bit of empathy in there, um, and that it's not just let's make the product, let's make the profit. I mean, those are important, but what's the human element? What's the people element of that? And that's why I think it's really tied into the other things, like again, social responsibility and sustainability and that kind of thing, because it's like, how does it affect other humans? It's not just about the bottom line, and that's not to negate the importance of the bottom line.
the bottom
Uh,
line is got to keep you in business, right? Well, and
yeah,
as I read through this article, it struck me that I think he's looking at it from the buyers, the consumers' point of view. They're looking for a company that's got social responsibility. They're looking
yeah,
for a company that can relate to them as they're in their bubble. They're looking for a company that is doing the sustainable things and that are interacting with them on a way that they want to be connected and contacted.
right.
So
Which is
it's not from
encouraging. Don't
it's not
don't
pushing it out. It's being aware from their perspective how they want it, and
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
different.
especially consumers like, I'm going to paint with an absurdly broad brush here, but like, millennials and younger. For them, that again, that responsibility that, hey, the planet is an important thing. There are other things, we want to do business with a company that's doing good things.
Right.
I mean, Ben and Jerry makes pretty good ice cream. I like Haagen-Dazs better, but if you're into social responsibility, Ben and Jerry is doing good things for the
Yeah.
world and for the planet and for other people, and you kind of want to be a part of that. And I think that's what it comes down to, Tim. I think it's this need to feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And as a consumer, if you can do that by supporting brands, supporting companies that also have that same kind of perspective, um, it is this sense that there's this wholeness. It's kind of an organic. There's a word that's escaping me now, but again, the sense of being part of something bigger than yourself, being part of a movement as opposed to just buying cornflakes.
Right. And I think that it's not a PR move. It's not where you're putting out a press release
It,
saying you're doing that.
ideally, it's
It's
not.
living it.
Yeah, it is. It is living it. Unfortunately, some organizations think of it as a PR move. Oh, we've got to put out the press release and say we're doing this, and then no, you've got to back it up. I mean, you really, and that comes from the top down.
Yeah, it
If
really
the
does.
if the C-suite thinks, okay, we ask the PR people to like just put out this thing, but they're not behind it. That might work for a short time, but eventually consumers are going to see through it.
Yeah. You mentioned the millennials and the Gen Z and that sort of thing. And I'm just thinking ahead, my youngest is 20, my oldest is 28,
Mm.
I was born in the mid-century of the 1900s. If I live to be 90 or 100, I'll be lucky. And what I'm curious to see, and I won't see it, but I'm curious to know how the country and the world's going to do this century. Kids being born today will be alive at the end of this century.
Yeah.
And you wonder what kind of world it'll be, and the young generation is going to be fighting for it. We're kind of getting off track, but I think it really kind of does relate to how companies are relating to those people that are buying their products.
It does, and it relates to innovation also, because part of innovation is asking the interesting questions, to get you out of the status quo. So one of those questions would be, as if you're a forward-thinking organization, what's my consumer base going to look like in 2050 or
Right.
2060? What are the needs going to be? Or even in 2025, of course, because things change rapidly. But it is looking at those questions like, what are the trends? Um, a lot of companies that were big 10 years ago got big because they saw the baby boomers being born again in like, the 50s and 60s of the last century, which makes it sound really old. But you see, they go, oh my goodness, these are a lot of kids. So how do you predict the future? Follow the boomers. Oh, in 10 years, they'll be 10 years old. In 20 years, they'll be 20 years old. What are 20-year-olds interested in? What are, when they get to be like 30, they'll start having kids. Okay, so companies like Play School and stuff like that will get big. It's easy to predict the future if you just look and see where the generations are heading.
Yeah, electric cars. I think of electric cars and how 30 years ago it was like you couldn't even find one.
Right.
If you did, it was a piece of junk. But now you see them everywhere.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
only just the Teslas, but the other car makers are coming out with a lot of them. A lot of them are high end, and so they're going to have to figure out where their market is. But
Yeah.
I think that this is political, but I don't know for sure if Biden's actually said this, but he's been accused of saying he wants to get rid of the internal combustion engine and the petroleum industry and all that.
Right. Right.
And I think, well, that'd be great if we could survive without it. It's a long transition, but it is a transition that I think will take place regardless of what the market says.
Yeah, it's a long transition, but it's almost kind of a sure thing also.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, petroleum will run out,
Right.
or at least get scarce enough that it's no longer feasible.
Right. And everything else will get cheaper. Right.
Right, exactly. And, so you have to, I mean, it's going to happen. We can sit back and deny it for as long as we want, but it's going to happen. Whether it happens in 10 years or 20 years or 100 years, I don't know. But so the smart money bets on, okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
Because this does have a limited shelf life.
One last thing, I know that I want to take this again from your newsletter. We're going to shift gears a little bit. You talked about something that you can, because you work with teams and how they're working within their companies. And you talked about how ask your team members to spend time on a two-part question. What will our clients and customers and members need a year from now? And how can we deliver it in 6 months or less? What got you onto that particular two-question challenge?
I was on a summit with, among other people, Brian Tracy, and they were asking, and there were a number, Dennis Waitley was on. There was a lot of like these legendary people, and somehow I got in under some sort of affirmative action program. And so the moderator's asking like, okay, so what's like one important thing that people can start doing? And he kind of went in order from, to most famous to, and so it got to me like, what can I say? And the one thing I said was, what people can do that I don't think enough people do this. People don't schedule time to think. Like actually put in the calendar an hour a week, a half hour a day, whatever. Schedule time to just think and do like, and it was cool because I saw Brian Tracy going, yeah, it's like, wow, okay.
You got a nod from him. You got a thumbs up.
Yep. Got a nod from Brian Tracy. And I said, but don't just like, oh, what should I think about? What should I think about? It's kind of like with creativity. People think like they think creativity doesn't like boundaries. Oh, just be creative about anything. No. Creativity loves constraints.
It does. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thinking likes constraints also. So you just come up with some questions. Like okay, I'm going to think for an hour and let's focus the thinking on this question. Doesn't mean you have to stay there. But again, one good question is for any organization, whether it's a company, if it's a nonprofit, it's an association, a membership type thing, whatever. What are our people, whoever they are, clients, customers, members, whatever, patients? What are they going to need in a year? And how can we get that to them faster? Because if they're going to need it in a year, eventually your competition is going to realize that too.
Right.
So if you can figure out, okay, again, like, the baby boomers, what are they going to need in 5 years? Well, we know what they're going to need in 5 years. They're going to need, Medicaid and that, and that sort of thing. But what is our customer base, whatever that is to you for your organization, what are they going to need in a year? I used to say 5 years, but now a year is pretty good.
Yeah. Because a year seems like 5 years.
It does. And what's going to happen is a year from now, the competition is going to realize, oh, we need to be doing this. But if you've already thought of that and thought, okay, how can I start doing that in 6 months? That way you're a little ahead of the curve. Like you were talking about electric vehicles. they're still slightly ahead of the curve. They're not mainstream. I mean, you see them all over the place, but it's still like, look at the Tesla.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, where you don't say, look at the Ford Taurus. I mean, ain't nobody saying that.
No.
So it's still kind of an out there kind of idea, but once it does become more mainstream, well, Tesla's already in the lead. They've already invented that wheel, and everybody else is going to be playing catch up because they saw where things were going because they took the time to think about it. Elon Musk and his people took the time to think about it.
And he was willing to push on it and lay his money on the line and everything else. Yeah.
And we can all do that. And that doesn't mean we have to invent the Tesla. Just like you said, innovations don't have to be huge. We tend to think, if I'm not inventing the iPhone, then I'm not really an innovator. Most innovations are incremental.
Incremental. I agree. Yeah. And you're talking about creativity. One last comment before we bring this to an end, but you talk about the constraints of creativity. I've been writing novels for the last year and a couple of months, and it's been interesting. I haven't written much fiction in my life, but I've come up with a character and situation. I've written 3 novels on it. I'm back to the first one, but the comment I heard was at the beginning, you can write anything and go anywhere, but the closer you get to the end, the narrower that box, that trail gets that you need to follow to get there, to get to the end. And I really like that because it's true. And the constraints really help you keep that narrative, that plot on path, as it were.
They do. If you ask a creative person, if you give a creative person 2 options, and option 1 is write a story about anything, and option 2 is write a story about a duck that wears a hat. Most creative people will run towards option number 2 because I've got something I've got to focus for my creativity.
It's a starting point.
A starting point. And then they'll take it in all kinds of different ways. It does help to have that kind of, here's something I can kind of sink my teeth into and really get to work on.
Well, cool, Bill. Always good to spend time with you. Let's do it again here in another year.
Man. I would love to.
All right, cool.
By the way, I loved your talk with Peter Shankman earlier.
Good. Yeah.
That was always brilliant and always profane Peter Shankman. That is well worth watching if any of you out there have not seen it. Yes,
he pulls no punches, and I like that about him.
He pulls no punches. He's got opinions, which is good.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.
And thanks again to Bill for taking time to join me this week on Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Before I close it out this week's one good thing, a thing I kind of didn't expect. I'm a big Oregon Ducks fan. You probably see me with my Ducks hat on occasion or a Ducks t-shirt or sweatshirt. But on Friday night, they played for the Pac-12 championship, and my buddy Roger and I usually watch the Ducks games together. And he said, you can come over, but I don't expect much out of it. Well, we watched the game, and it was a good game. He said, man, they're playing the best defense they've played all year long. They ended up winning, I think, by a touchdown over USC, which was at that point 5-0. The Ducks were 3-2. They went to 4-2, and they gave the Trojans their first loss of the year. So the Ducks are going to get a good bowl game. But that was kind of this week's one good thing. A little unsurprising with this odd year in sports, college football, college basketball, NFL, NBA, you name it. So there it is for this week. Have a great Christmas, and let's do this again next time around here on Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee.